Hola familia, this is Sara Contreras and you are listening to my podcast, Freak of Nature. Today is Saturday, May 2nd, and the first thing I'm going to ask everybody to do is follow me on Instagram at Latin Diva Comedy, Facebook, Latin Diva Comedy. Actually, Facebook should be also Sara Contreras Comedian. YouTube, Sara Contreras, trying to get more subscribers, trying to monetize. TikTok at Latin Diva Comedy, and iTunes and Spotify, F.R.E.A.K Nature Sara Contreras. I know that last week I had thanked a couple of people that were wonderful about listening to the podcast and sharing it, and I was remiss in not mentioning my girl Suni Reyes. Follow her on Instagram, a wonderful human being, hilarious comedian, and pura boricua, que. I also wanted to take a minute this time to share some heartfelt sad news that I didn't mention last time, but I think it's important to give love to two brothers in comedy whose very dear family was lost to coronavirus, to the COVID-19. My man Edgar Rivera lost his mother, and Philip Borras lost his father. And we are very saddened by that news. We support our brothers in comedy and cannot begin to understand and, comprehend how people so young and vibrant have been taken so quickly. We get it. It's older, but these were young. To me, being in the 60s, obviously, is not a death sentence. It never should be. So condolences to Edgar and Philip, as well as several people who went on the Salsa Cruise with us who have passed. So that is obviously sad news, but I do want to give a shout out. I also want to show much love para la gente de Puerto Rico, porque coño, que es lo que Puerto Rico hizo para todo esto que le están tirando. Again, a 5.5 on the Richter scale earthquake that rocked Ponce, que esto es todo mi corazón, al lado de Juntas. Yo, that hurt this morning. I woke up and I saw what was going on with those beautiful old buildings that are never going to be able to be restored again. May the people survive this. Please, if there's anything that's causing these earthquakes, stop it. And if that means, then God, shut this shit down on the island. Yeah, enough. Anyway. Back to F.R.E.A.K Nature. I know that I mentioned last week that F.R.E.A.K Nature is actually an acronym. And F.R.E.A.K Nature is actually an acronym for what is my personal philosophy for living a healthy, prosperous, and happy life. So the F is an acronym. It stands for forgive. The R stands for relish. The E is exfoliate. Te tiene que cuidar el cuti. Gotta take care of your skin. A is acquire. And I'm going to talk about all of this down the road. And K is kiss. I feel like if you do all 5 of those things in your life, then you can be a F.R.E.A.K Nature, como soy yo. So I wanted to mention that because the reason I chose the topic for today is directly related to that F.R.E.A.K Nature mantra that I keep putting out there. Forgive. And why forgiving Nicky Jam? And for the people who heard me do the little thing when I was working out, I just said Nicky Jams. I slipped it. I know I slipped it, but whatever. The point is, why Nicky Jam? Now, I'm late to the game. I'm not going to lie. I didn't know who he was. I never heard of Nicky Jam. My husband was surprised. He was like, really? I'm like, no, I was never a big fan of reggaeton. I'm going to be honest with you. When reggaeton was coming out, late 90s, and it had been around, people earlier on, obviously it had a Panamanian vibe and it had a Jamaican reggae thing, but when it was starting to really blow up, late 90s, early 2000s, I was raising a little girl. So I wasn't supposed to necessarily like reggaeton as a progressive young mother of a girl, because let's face it, the lyrics were a little dicey, man. Think about it. Nicky Jam, when he first came out, he was 14 years old. He was doing all kinds of music, and when he did this song with Daddy Yankee, I don't know how it goes. I know it was called En la Cama, all right? I know it was all about ella le gusta que le den duro y que se lo coma. ¿Qué? Chocha, culo, teta. Hello? What? Excuse me? Say it again. ¿Qué? Chocha, culo, teta. And to me, that was what reggaeton was in my mind. And I could have been wrong. But as a young, progressive, Mom, I did not feel that that music represented the way that I wanted my daughter to see herself. That I wanted her to see herself as more than just tits and ass. And I also was raising my son. At that point, my son was already, going into the teen years and so on. And so I wanted him to respect women, not just as tits, ass, and everything else. So for me, reggaeton didn't entice me. I wasn't interested in the lyrics, and I kind of wrote it off. And that was that. So my man says to me, let's watch this special on Netflix. I'd never heard of it. I put it on. I had my objections, but I gotta tell you something. The movie El Ganador was released in 2018, and it was on Telemundo, and it had been on Netflix in South America. But Netflix wisely finally picked it up, and I was able to watch it. I don't know, when did we start watching it? Someday last week. All I know was I finished it. I did 13 episodes, like in 24 hours. It was addicting. A show that included addiction as a tema was addicting. I was completely blown away because his story is so compelling. I mean, he once called himself the embarrassment of the Latin Caribbean music industry. He had suffered a near fatal overdose in 2010. His story is amazing because, after he hit rock bottom for 10 years. After that, he was so busy touring. He even missed his Latin Grammy in 2015 for Song of the Year for El Perdón. Okay, hello, El Perdón. Are you talking about forgiveness? There you go. So now I'm curious. Now I'm like, okay, let me see what his story is all about. And that song, by the way, went double platinum with Iglesias and his lispy, yo te voy a decir, que te quiero y te voy a decir. If I had to hear that lisp again, I swear to God, but whatever. That's the motherland and the mother country and the mother language, whatever. So, and he became Vin Diesel's his BFF after Triple X. I was madly curious about who he was. So I watched this show and I'm addicted to it. If I tell you at the end of every show, we would just let it go to the next one. The show was more than the music, more than being Boricua, the culture, the drugs. For me, that show was all about forgiving, which I feel like if you don't do that in your life, you are never going to find peace. That is why it is the centerpiece of Freak of Nature. All right? He had his struggles. He had hit rock bottom. He moves to Medellin. Now, those of you who don't know, he was big at 14. He was already taping with Daddy Yankee, Los Gangris. All right? So he was big. He had made some success early on. But when you hit that kind of success early on, you don't know how to handle it. So he made many. And by the time he was busted, rock bottom, he was depressed, overweight, struggling with addiction, and broke. He had a bunch of baby mamas, all right? He lost Daddy Yankee as his best friend. There wasn't any lower that he could go. And what did he do? We all knew that he was struggling with some kind of pain. When you see addiction like that, when you see someone who is struggling like that with all that addiction, for me, I connected with that because I had so much addiction in my family. I grew up with addiction the same way that he did. My parents weren't addicted, but my father was an alcoholic. I had an older brother who was a heroin addict. I had an older sister who was also caught up with it. Let me put it to you this way. We were 6 siblings in my family, and only 2 of us did not go to rehab. So yeah, I have a little bit of a connection with what he was going through. I always feel that in the end, when you are feeling that level of desperation, I think, he was abandoned. He was abandoned by his mother. And in my mind, as I'm watching this movie and I'm just watching this series of episodes, all I'm seeing is a grown man who is still that lost little boy who's blaming himself for his mother leaving. That's what I saw. Someone who was just desperately trying to get his mother's love. And that pain is what fueled a lot of the reason why he did his drugs. And it was about not feeling love. Think about it. After all of that abandonment, because that's what it was, and he was honest in his portrayal of it in that he didn't lie about it, he didn't sugarcoat it. He hadn't spoken Spanish at 10. They moved him to Puerto Rico, and he became bilingual. And think about that. He took those bilingual skills and turned it into a debut album, Distintos a los Demás. You gotta give some kind of, man, that's just amazing. I'm just totally blown away. But it was so relatable. Childhood issues are usually why people persistently take drugs and become addicts. And in the end, he stuck with it, he fought through it, and he reunited with his mother. It was just a beautiful story. The acting, phenomenal. The way they filmed it, it was beautiful the way they filmed it. Beautifully filmed. And who doesn't love seeing Puerto Rico in a film? I'm going to tell you something right now. I was like, oh my God, look at La Perla. And let me just tell you about my experience with La Perla. I spent every summer in Puerto Rico as a kid growing up. And then I would go there often as a young adult. And I'm going to tell you something right now. I didn't go into La Perla until I was well into my 50s. Between the drugs, the gangs, you knew not to go in La Perla. Yo, we respected that place for what it was. Y le teníamos un miedo. And I'm not going to lie, the first time I went into La Perla was after Despacito. It was after everything got cleaned up. And you know when I went down? Mine and I stood there. And when I saw a pair of white people go down, that's when I went down to La Perla. Because I knew that it had been cleaned up enough that maybe there was a cop down there, maybe there was some damn lights and cameras. So there it is. That's when I went down to La Perla, and I am not ashamed to say that. Because we all know that when the white people show up, there's more cops and there's more diligence. We can just kill each other for all they care. So to see La Perla, and I thought I had seen Lote 23 in Santurce, because I think Santurce was where he was in that area when he was coming up. So I'm almost positive that that was Lote 23. If anybody knows that that's for sure where they filmed the big, the little concert that they gave, please let me know, okay? So yeah, I mean, La Perla now, you see the basketball court got hooked up. Shout out to Carmelo Anthony for doing a beautiful job fixing up the basketball court. You know, I remember when we got there, and un chamaquito came over to us and he's like, oh, mira, yo te enseño cómo está allá abajo, yo te llevo allá abajo. And I was like, mira, después que no me coge la cartera y no me meto un bimbazo, yo me voy contigo. As long as you don't mess me up on the way down. We followed this guy all the way down. He was touring, showing like, this is where they filmed this and back and forth. And I'm just looking for the white people. All I'm doing is looking for the white people. I want to be where they are. So they did film it in Puerto Rico, which was also so wonderful. And if anybody doesn't know, that's where they filmed Despacito down in La Perla. So they filmed in Puerto Rico. They filmed in the Bronx. They filmed in Massachusetts, and they filmed in Colombia. And yo, every time they filmed in Puerto Rico, I would hear the coqui. I was like, yes, we are home. You know, I never really lived there necessarily, but now I own a home. I got a home in Puerto Rico. I got my little condo in Fajardo. So yeah, I am an owner of Puerto Rico. So seeing it and hearing it in the episodes was just marvelous. And I love that they filmed it in Spanish. I mean, we watch shows sometimes, and I complain to my honey, where they feel compelled to make a show, like, let's say the show Vida. I love the show, but I don't like the way that they present the English and the Spanish chopped up the way that they do. I feel like they're trying to be politically correct, but people don't really talk like that. You either speak Spanish, you speak English, or you have some kind of Spanglish. And Spanglish was generally always when you took an English word and you either Hispanized it, or you took a Spanish word. So it was about flipping the words to fit in because you didn't know the word. What they're doing on the TV shows now is more like language mixing, but it's not done normally. They're trying to appease, I think, a white audience or either a Spanish audience, but I don't think they're handling it correctly. What they need to do is, after they auto-translate everything, they need to have somebody like me that knows the culture, that knows how people do speak, especially if they're Boricua, and have somebody go in there and edit that shit because it don't sound natural. Sorry, Vida, I'm not feeling it. Love the show, but I wish you took that a little bit more seriously. So, you know, the show to me was honestly one of the best shows I've seen. Surprising to me, because I'm telling you, the first thing I did was go, reggaeton. And I know I could be a snob about that. I'm not going to lie about it. I wish I was more like my girl Reina. My girl Reina is amazing. You know who you are, Reina B. Reina B. One of the baddest, smartest, most educated, successful Latinas to walk this earth. Also one of the biggest broads. I swear, she's gorgeous. And I mean big by tall and just beautiful, like an Amazon. She is we go out and it's just like, who's the puny little girl walking next to that Amazon? Because that's what she is. Reina, and I love this about her. You could put any Spanish song on, any genre, salsa, merengue, ballads, reggaeton, whatever. And that girl knows every word to every song. Yo, she lives and breathes music in Spanish. And I love that about her. But I'm going to admit it. I'm not saying she's not eclectic because I know she is. She'll sing a complete song in Spanish and then she breaks out into some ballad by, Usher, or another ballad by Kelly Clarkson, and then she'll come up with some, what's the girl's name? Oh my God, Esperanza. She's amazing. But Spanish, yo, that's her first thing. That's her love. You know who else was like that? My dearly, dearly, dearly departed friend Joanne. Joanne also, salsa was her thing. Salsa, not so much reggaeton, but salsa. So reggaeton for older folks, I think has been a little bit harder to wrap ourselves around. We were supposed to not like it. Let's put it, that's what I keep telling everybody. It's different. This is one of the best parts of being older. I don't have those mandates for doing what I thought was right for my kids. Not having those mandates about standing as a surrogate for my children and what they're listening to, what they're exposed to. I'm way past that now. So now, I got a new ear for the reggaeton. I'm like, okay, I'm feeling the beat and I could definitely move to it. And as long as some guy is not coming up and expecting me to entregarle el fondillo at a dance, we'll be okay. And I also really appreciate the fact that Nicky has developed his voice. I think he has definitely developed his singing. And his lyrics are more romantic. In the end, I think he is a sweetheart. I think he has a heart of gold. I loved the way that they portrayed the culture. Every time he saw his mother, his father, his tío, any elders, bendición. Oh my goodness, that killed me because I don't really see people doing that nowadays. I try to get my grandkids to do it. We're working on it. Even if it, I know it's kind of phony on my end because bendición. Oh, and that's another thing about the translation. Bendición is you're asking an elder for the blessing of may God bless you. And it was a beautiful thing growing up. That was a part of our rituals. In the movie, he would say bendición and the translation was good to see you here. It was never the same translation. It was just like, again, one of those automatic translations. And I think that it would have been nice for them to say, some way of saying, asking for a blessing. My blessing, please. They should have been true to what it really represented in the culture. They took, I thought, a shortcut in translating what that meant. I think if it had been consistent throughout, that's another way for a non-Latino community to appreciate how much we hold on to our traditions, how much we hold on to those pieces of cultural thread that keep us and that bind us together, especially as we see, the changes in our culture and how people are leaving the island. It's so important that we hold on to that culture and we pass it on to the next generation. So I appreciated that he was true to that. And I'll bet you that was real. I don't think that was fake. I don't think he was doing that. I do believe that's who he was. So to see someone evolve, and he was bad, man. The way he was getting high, I think of my brother. I wish my brother had had a transformation like that. I wish my brother had been able to pick himself up after 10, 20, 30, 40. My brother did drugs for probably going on 50 years. And yeah, he cleaned up, but he went right back to the life. And I think part of what helped him was, and I think part of what I acknowledged with Nicky always had people that believed in him. That guy Juan Diego, that guy Pina, all these people that he ran with, they supported him, they pulled him up, they dragged him up when they saw that he was down. And unfortunately, that's not something that we see a lot in our community. I hate to say it. If it would happen more with comedians, maybe we would be more seen on TV. If it happened more with actors, but we don't act that way. I'm going to speak for the New York comedy scene. I feel like it's a little cutthroat. I do feel like it's a little, I remember when I did my special, when I did my comedy special, Latin Divas of Comedy, we taped it and we were rehearsing and getting it ready, 2005, 2006. We taped it in 2007 and it was nominated for an Alma Award in 2008. Now, Media was in its infancy. We had MySpace. That was about it. But the internet was out, but it wasn't like, I could count on one finger who the comedians were that lauded that show, that promoted it, that told people to watch it, that told their friends and family, that tried to get it to go out there and be something that more and more people saw. I didn't even get congratulations from a lot of the people that I knew from the comedy world. It was like if I didn't mention to them, hey, did you catch my special? They weren't even going to give me that. So that's real. That was definitely my experience. And that one person was Angelo Lozada. He was the one who said, yo, ma, I caught that. It was great. To put my people onto it. But so many people didn't do that. So I appreciated the fact that at least Nicky did have people that were looking out for him, that saw his talent, that knew that he needed a hand. He just needed for somebody to extend that hand and say, Papa, come with me, we're going to do this, and we're going to make this happen. So yeah, I wish that had happened for people in comedy. I wish it had happened for my brother. My brother died at 62. His heart gave out. Because I'm going to tell you something right now, if Nicky hadn't cleaned up, that's what was going to happen to him too. You can only do so many drugs for so long. And hallelujah, and I say it like that, alleluia, because that's the way my deaf sister says hallelujah, so I kind of get stuck with it. Everybody knows me. Alleluia! He was able to find his mother. I'm not going to lie. Many times during those 13 episodes, however many there were, I cried because it was me. Not directly, not exactly, but I understand the struggle. Not personally, because I was hooked on drugs, but I'm not going to lie. I'm going to be upfront, right? I did plenty. I got denied a scholarship when I was 14 years old. I thought I was going to get out of Brooklyn, and I was the top student in my district, and they denied me my scholarship because my parents made like $1,000 over the income cutoff. And I didn't realize until my late 30s in therapy that was what caused me to not give a shit about school anymore. I got dusted every day. I was doing mescaline. I was doing acid. I did cocaine. Didn't like it. Too expensive. I snorted a couple of things I shouldn't have snorted. The good news for me was I didn't stay there. I did it. I experimented. It was a mistake. I got out of it. But do I not think that the addiction does not run in my family or in me? Of course it runs in me. I'm going to carry that and I'm passing that on to my children. Thankfully. Hallelujah. My son and my daughter are good. They probably have some type of compulsivity, but it's not drugs. Everybody who knows me knows my drug of choice is Tootsie Pops. I am a Tootsie Pop fanatic. I will take a bag and I could eat the whole bag in one sitting. That is addictive behavior. I know what it is. I look at it for what it is. And it has manifested in different forms. When I was very, very young in my 20s, after I started having kids, I became obsessed with working out. And I was in that gym crazy. That had its benefits, but I knew that was my addiction manifesting. I had eating disorders before that. When I was married, I had terrible, I was bulimic. I was doing all kinds of harmful behaviors, and that is all going back to that childhood pain. For me, now I know that it was about trying to find a man who treated me like my father. My father put me on a pedestal. I was his baby. My father and I were very, very close, and I wanted that with a man. I didn't have it with the man that I married. So how did it manifest? I had all these eating disorders, and eventually, look, it's survivable. You have to recognize it. You have to identify it. And that is why in a movie like this, when you see someone who was able to find that moment, that strength, that inner strength to say, I'm not going to keep living like this. Yo, did you see the pictures of him? So overweight and just depressed, and anybody would just be like, se va a matar en la calle, That, and look what happened. Drugs took so many of his people. His best friend, Peter. I mean, people that were murdered when all that drama went on in Puerto Rico. Ironically, he goes to Colombia, which I was like, oh my goodness, del sartén al fuego. That's what I thought. Out of the frying pan into the fire. And it did get worse. But it was also in Medellin where he was able to find salvation. And I laud Nicky Jam. Nicky Rivera, what's his real name? Caminero. I applaud you, sir. I know that I don't agree with 100% of what how you rolled. I'm so happy that you're reconnected with your children. I kind of wish you'd kind of promote safe sex at some point. But again, that's the mama in me. And I gotta just, I'm not trying to judge, hoping I'm not sounding judgmental. It's more about being realistic, being responsible, finding redemption. I love the word redemption because redemption ties in so well with forgiving. That's what it is. When you forgive someone, you're giving them a chance to redeem themselves. You have so much power over someone who is begging for forgiveness. Now, you'll see in my show, I talk about it. You don't have to forgive everybody. Oh, hell no. The dumbass that took your promotion and stole your man, mira, you go wish her diarrhea 4 times a day. You don't have to forgive her. I'm not talking about forgiving everybody. What I talk about in F.R.E.A.K nature is primarily forgiving yourself. You start there, and then that's when you can start forgiving everybody else that's pissing you off in your lifetime. But when you live with that anger and that spitefulness and that resentfulness and that bitterness in your soul, you are never, I just don't see it. I don't see how you're going to live a happy, productive, successful, healthy life. The day I forgave my brother for all of the things he stole from me, and he stole my youth in a lot of ways, okay? The day that I forgave him was the day that I was able to move on. Otherwise, I think people live lonely, exhausted lives trying to find some way to feel good about the choices that they've made. And they don't realize that the power is right there in your hand, pa. The minute you forgive yourself, it sounds so corny, but it is such a load that you take off your shoulders. I had to forgive my ex-husband. I talk about that in the show for a couple of different reasons. Now, he's not a bad person, but we didn't click. You'll see in the show, and I'm going to keep promoting it because in the end, I want people to come and see the show. F.R.E.A.K Nature is amazing. The more I write it, the more I'm convinced that this is what so many people have been missing in their lives because they're just running around in circles trying to be happier when it's right there, man. It's in your hands. It's not easy. Forgiving yourself is so hard. And I am sure Nicky looked himself in the mirror several times and said, Coño, pero qué asqueroso yo me estoy viendo. It's ugly. When you look at yourself in the mirror, man, you see warts and all. You see the ugliness in your spirit, the honesty. You honestly say, Coño, that was messed up what I did, and I'm conceited, and I could be real narcissistic. And you know what? I am critical, and I do boss people around, and I do have to stop being so judgmental. It's hard. It's not easy. But it allows you to lift that weight, and then you can start doing with other people. You can start letting people back into your life again and forgiving them for what pain they've caused. So, I was completely blown away. I got to tell you, I was completely blown away by this. I actually we want to watch it again. That's how good we thought it was. I'm late to the game, I'll admit it, but a show that showed Boricua culture, showed how deeply we love, and we do, and how the power of redemption has given this man another shot, and he is huge. I mean, who doesn't want to be best friends with Vin Diesel? That's kind of cool. But the main thing is that he looks happy. And I'm sure it's not perfect. But from what I understand, he's still clean. His mother's still clean. I don't remember what happened with his dad. I think he's also still alive. Yeah. I wish them all well. And, I wanted to share this because, again, I saw this incredible connection with my show. 2 different genres, 2 different stories, but in the end, that show was completely about redemption. And I respect the man, I laud him, I applaud Netflix for being smart enough to bring it out. I'm sorry it took me over a year to see it, but you know what? I mean, we're watching like B-rated movies right now at night because we've been through most of the really, really good ones. Every time somebody gives us a suggestion, and we're only watching TV at night because we are working during the day, But after a while, you're like, well, what are we going to watch this week? And I am so thankful for my producer, my boo, Alex. Everybody knows, but he also got that nickname from a homeless dude. The brother's real, man. I just got to give it to him. I'm kind of, I got a little pie on the face. You know, I'll admit it. You know, I made a mistake. The music is beautiful. There are some beautiful ballads in reggaeton, and I am glad that it's evolved. And, you know, we're not just, what is it? Chocha, culo, teta. We got hearts, we got souls, we have minds, and we contribute much more. And if you watched my show last week, you know we also have bigger and greater immunity to COVID-19. I'm definitely going to bring that up again. It is chromosomal. And I also wanted to mention that this beautiful piece of art is just so beautiful, and it is an original piece that was produced, made by my cousin Paye, Salvador Rivera. And if anyone would like to order one, he can custom make it to your color choice. He can do also the flag with the new the black and gray resistance colors, the flag, and everything could be to your liking. And his sister Chavela also does beautiful work. So if anybody is interested, unfortunately I don't have the information for their website, but better still, give it to me directly and I can get it to them. So mi gente, I hope that you have enjoyed this podcast. I will be coming to you live next week with a podcast, and we still don't know what it's going to be, but I do feel like I need to get this F.R.E.A.K Nature stuff out there so you can understand why that brand is really something that I'm trying to promote, especially now in the time of Corona. There was an article in the paper today about how this whole lockdown is really giving rise to ageism, age discrimination, this feeling that somehow once you're over 60, you are not worth anything, that you don't contribute anymore, that your value, that your life is worth less than anyone else's. So clearly I have a problem with that, because I'm going to tell you something right now, I still don't know what I want to do when I grow up. So I have plenty of living to do, and I'll be damned if someone's going to tell me, oh, well, you're 60 plus, so your life doesn't have any value. And for the people who think that we're supposed to open up society again and risk us getting sick again, you can kiss my mofo ass. That's how I feel about it. And you know what? I think it's time for Black and Latinos to start storming some government buildings with automatic weapons so we can see the double standard in place. I'm sick of it. Okay, I just had to get that out there. Oof. I feel 5 pounds lighter. So mi gente, that is my podcast for this week. Please take a second to watch Nicky Jam, El Ganador, the winner, because that's what he is, a winner. And I am a winner and a freak of nature. Be on the lookout for, what, honey? Dímelo.
No, está bien.
¿Está bien? Okay. So there you go. Follow me on Instagram, Latin Diva Comedy, Facebook, Latin Diva of Comedy, or Sara Contreras Comedian. YouTube, please subscribe to to YouTube. My YouTube channel, Sara Contreras, TikTok, Latin Diva Comedy, and iTunes and Spotify. And also, do not forget to sign up and check out my SEO company, the people who sponsor me, my sponsor, Organical SEO. You will never regret signing up for their services to promote your website and your services. Bueno, mi gente, hasta la próxima. This is Sara Contreras, F.R.E.A.K Nature, signing out.